But the story I'm going to tell starts way back when I was in high school, and I was in the library during study hall. Now, the English teacher wouldn't have trusted me to check out books. I didn't have that kind of knowledge. But she would let me hand out magazines and things. So I would stand back there and kids want magazines or something, and I would hand them out. Now, I know the time frame because the picture I'm going to talk about, I'll describe. But it was the same time frame in my mind when I think about it. So I know it was when I was 17 and I was in the 11th grade, and I saw this picture. Now it came back, and I'll tell you how it came back. But the picture was so great, full page in a big, nice magazine, and it just struck me because here was this elegant woman, this beautiful gown, and she's standing there in front of some drapery. The drapery is about the color of her dress, and in her face is only shown, and it has her hair is covered. There's a little white something raised above her head that drape comes down, and her face is showing, and the face is in such great pain and such agony that you look at it and you wonder. And then you follow down the lines, and she's a very pretty woman, and she's holding her hand as if someone's wringing their hand in such pain they don't know what to do. And she comes down, and around her waist is a kind of a rope. The rope is the same color as the dress that hangs down with a little frill. And then the dress flows out, and it's about the same color as the drapery behind her. But on the floor beside her is another woman. And she's bent over, and her face is in such agony. And her right arm is underneath her body, and her left hand is open, and she leans over, and the tears are in her eyes. And a jeweled dagger has fallen from her hand and laying on the floor in front of her. The two women there, and I'm looking, what in the world is this story? And I'm looking at the thing, and I'm looking at the story. And like I say, I know when I saw it because at that same time frame in one of the magazines, I happened to read a story about Eleanor Roosevelt. Now, how these things get stored in your mind for so long. But I know it was because in reading about Eleanor Roosevelt, the author had read she had a pregnant mind. I was 17. I was a male. Pregnant was a big word in that. That did not make sense. How do you have a pregnant mind? So on a rare occasion, I went to the dictionary. Oh, that's what it means. Okay, so I was all right. So I know those two things for the same time. I was 17. But I looked at this, and then it was filed away in that part of the mind that sat there. And it sat there. And then sometime 10 years ago or something, I got Olivia M. Squire's little book of stories. And in the stories is the one I'm going to tell you. And I thought, that's the painting. And I could see it. Now, it starts in 1437, and James I is coming back from England, where he's been visiting with his wife, Joan. She's English. And they're coming back. Now, he's been on the throne about 13 years. Now, for those of you that want to know some sort of relationship, James I. Now, the fifth was the father of Mary, Queen of Scots. So it gives you kind of a time frame. So, but the first, he had been on the throne about 13 years. He was very content, because he had kind of a motto. They said that throughout his whole kingdom, the key would keep the castle. Now that means, like we used to talk about, we could leave our houses unlocked. They were safe. All you needed was a key to get into the castle. You didn't have to ram it down. You could go away and it would be safe if you just locked it. It was safe. The key would keep, and the cow would be broomed. It meant that everybody had a cow that they could just wipe the dust off of it. It was their cow. So it was a good time. But politically, it's always when you're helping one, you're creating problems with somebody else. And they were there. So this was the times. But he had come back, and they were staying at the convent on their way back. They would send notes ahead so that people could be prepared to receive the king. And they would tell him when they were coming and things. So he was staying at a convent with his wife Joan. Now they had ladies in waiting, and the king and queen had retired to their part of their apartment. And the ladies in waiting are now out picking things up. They're cleaning up the dresses, they're picking up and putting the room back in order. And the king and queen have gone into their private space. And then her name was Kathleen Douglas. Now, Kathleen was picking the things up. And then that feeling or sound or sense that a mother of 4 boys gets when something's too quiet. You know, there should be certain noises, and they're not. But there is a noise. What was that? It did not belong. And she paused, and the other ladies were picking things up. And then she started picking up, and then still she was not settled. So she went over and moved the drapes back out and looked out on that night. And she could see slight snow falling, but everything still was all right. But she was nervous, and she put it back, and she went back and was picking up the dresses, and then a sense of just dramatic sense came, and she looked at the door into the apartments. And there should be a bolt, there should be a rod sticking between the handles of the door to lock the door, and the bolt is gone. And so she screams to the other women, treason, because that bar should not be gone. It should be there. And she hollers, treason. And the other women look around to see what she's at. And she's screaming again to alert the king and the queen. And she's screaming, treason. And she looked for something to bar that. She looks behind the drapery for the bar, and it is not there. She looks around, and she can see around the room what can she put in there to block this. And she can hear voices outside, and there's no time, so she just puts her arm through and grabs the braces. And she can hear the voices, and then she feels a slight move against the door. And then the voice spoke, and she recognized it as the Earl of Athol, the uncle of the king. And they said, I thought you said you moved the bar. And the next voice said, I did move it. Well, it's not there now, but the voice that answered was the king's cousin, Robert Stuart. I did move it, but it's something there now. And then the third voice said, well, should we stop or should we go ahead? And that was the tutor of Athol. And he said, they said, we're here, we've got to go on. And so they began to push hard, and she and Catherine did not want to make any sound. They didn't know that all that between them was the arm of a woman, and so they began to push harder. And one of the other ladies helping came with a dagger she had somebody had left in the room, and she came over to stand beside her. And they began to push harder, and she held on. And then finally, I guess all 3 of them were pushed until there was a snap, and then her useless arm dropped down to her side. And the men came rushing in, and the woman knocking the woman by that had come to bear her up against the wall, knocking her unconscious. And then the 3 came into the room. Now the king and the queen knew how to get out of the room. There was a hole in the floor that they could get through and get into the sewer and get away. And the queen's report is the king had got in there, then he couldn't do that. He couldn't run. And so he came back out, and he met the 3 assassins coming into the room. And there was a brief fight, but it didn't last long. 1 against 3 wouldn't be long. And so Catherine saw the 3 men come back outside, looking at one another. And then they departed as fast as they could go before others were alerted in the castle. Now Catherine stood there and watched this, and the queen was on her knees in front of the body of the king. The mistake that the 3 men had made at last was leaving the queen alive. Now, I don't know if you really think about it or not, but when people take them to torture, they want to get them as close to death as they can get them without killing them, letting them get good and well, and then doing it all over again, So she hired torturers from around Europe, And she sent out armies to bring these men back to justice, which was done, and they were tortured to death. The family where the children were, I know not in the story, but they were evidently not going to England, but they were some other location, so the children were all right, how many there were. The woman with a jewel dagger, she was there, but after this incident, Kathleen was known as the Bar Lass. And I learned that from Oliver Squire's Little Book of Stories. And so I invite you to look for the stories around Scotland of heroes and heroines, but it's a great sacrifice to let your arm be broken for the ones you love. And that's Mateo.